What is up, guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the A2B1 podcast. This week we are going to be discussing the two titular movies, Your Name and A Silent Voice. We'll be discussing differences and similarities between the two, the things we enjoy the most about both movies, and you'll likely hear each and every one of us give our opinions on which one is our favorite of the two. So, who wants to start us off this week?
Aaron always does. Let him.
He does.
Why is it always me?
It just is for some reason.
You're the most well-spoken.
Well, I mean, personally, I just really like the Silent Voice a lot better. It has so many different levels to it, and so many different things that covers. I just, like I said, one of the biggest things I say about it is, it doesn't matter who you are, and what things you deal with. If you watch that movie, you're going to find something that you relate to.
We figured that we'd probably get into which one we like more towards the end of the podcast, but Aaron wanted to shotgun that from go. He wanted everyone to know Your Name sucks, and A Silent Voice is the better of the two. No, that's not what he said. He just said he thinks A Silent Voice.
No, it more or less is.
Well, what do you think about Your Name?
Your Name, I think, is really good, and I really like the concept of it. I really like how it's based in two different time periods, like the girl and the boy.
Yeah,
they're two different time periods. One's 3 years in the future and one's 3 years in the past, and all that. I really like how you have to figure it out. It almost feels like you have to watch it multiple times to get everything, and I really like that about the movie.
I don't agree with that. The first time, everything down pat.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think I like the most about Your Name. I enjoy the fact that it seems like just every bit of what happens in that movie is relevant towards the plot. It just all is about progressing and kind of giving you information. But I think the other huge thing about it is that it takes elements of just about every genre. There's laughs, there's action, there's adventure, there's
action.
Fantasy, there's action.
The only action
It's literally an asteroid, and they have to keep
that's the only thing.
I mean, or suspense, whichever way you want to throw it. But
suspense,
it's got romance. It's got mystery, it's got this scientific element and everything. There's just a lot of different genres crammed into one, right? But whenever you have A Silent Voice was a lot more one note as far as it was very sad undertones during the entire thing, but it did that one note very well. It was incredible in the way that it went through the characterization of the main cast and just kind of the mood of the entire thing. It kept it consistent throughout. So they both definitely have amazing qualities. They both have a lot to be loved and a lot to be revered. I don't know that there's a lot of criticisms about each either. Does anyone have necessarily anything that they weren't as big of a fan of about either of the two? I think that's the hardest thing.
Well, I mean, there was a character I didn't like in the Silent Voice. I just truly despised her.
The bitch sister?
Her. You never see her.
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah,
Why is that?
She got that good pipe, though.
You're talking about the girl that was the bully to...
Yeah,
no, the one who got with the Brazilian and had the kid.
Oh, they had the big buff.
Yeah.
With the mixed
Yeah, you never see her.
Oh, okay.
I think you do in the manga, but you don't in this movie.
It's the first.
Well, but I was trying to gauge who Aaron was talking. Is that who?
Yeah, that's who he's talking about.
Okay.
He's like, the sister you never saw. I hate that character.
Oh, no. I'm talking about
Yeah. I thought that y'all were saying that as a joke and he was agreeing with it, but he genuinely doesn't like the girl bully.
Yeah, no.
I see. That was the beginning
but
of the
that's
sentence.
kind of the purpose
She
of
thought-
the character.
Yeah, well, that's the reason that I think it's blatant to dislike her. I think, but that is definitely her character.
I think she was the realist.
I feel like it's not more of a I dislike the anime. It's
Exactly.
I dislike this person in the anime.
But that's what I
saying you make
I
Tootsie
said.
Rolls.
That's why I said I have a character I don't like in the Silent Voice.
Well, but I guess that's what we're trying to figure out is critiques of either, is there any part of either of the two? Because even though you didn't like her, she was a good character for the story. She added.
You were meant to not like her.
Yeah, no,
that
makes total sense.
For me, for example, if I had to give any knock, it's difficult because, like I say, they are both movies. I feel like, and a lot of this I think has to do with the mood. Like I mentioned with The Silent Voice. The Silent Voice I feel like was long. It's 2 hours and some change, so it felt very long.
No, it's actually 3.5 hours.
But anyway,
that's wrong.
It felt very long, and I know that it was, and there was a lot to unpack during that time period. But my thing with it is, with Your Name, the times that it hit me and tugged on my heartstrings, I mean, it hit hard. It was the very end right there. It had me bawling because of it. But A Silent Voice never hit me as hard as any of the sad notes from Your Name, but that's because I was just sad as shit the entire time. I mean, I was literally just in a sour mood, not in a negative way. It was, I was feeling sentimental. Yeah, Silent Voice. Yeah, I was feeling sentimental the entire time, but it literally was just depressing throughout. And because of how long the movie was, it was just a long time to just be down on my, self.
I agree with you. Like I literally watching that movie. Like there wasn't a time where I wasn't just like I am just feeling every emotion right now that they want you to feel.
And that makes it a great movie. But I do think
I don't know if I agree with that. There's a lot of movies like
you are heartless though.
I guess.
Did you cry during either movie?
Your Name.
Yeah, I know your name.
See, I feel like A Silent Voice was a lot sadder, and it was because it kept you.
It kept you sad.
It kept you at the characters' levels until they experienced a spike in happiness. Because I agree, the mood of the movie was down the whole time, but when it uplifted, it did it at the same points as the characters.
Yeah.
At the beginning, not at the beginning, in Your Name, it felt like a rom-com, like slice
of life.
Slice of life.
Until towards the end,
all the way until the end. Like, it was only at the end of the movie, and I loved the movie, but it was only at the end that it really
meteor shit's happening.
Played with your emotions.
Yeah. Well, see, I will say though, and this was closer to the end, but I think another thing that I don't know if it hit everyone the same way it hit me, but another part that really hit me was whenever he got to the meteor site, you remember, and there was like the sake that she had made, and then that's whenever they met on the ring, the little outskirts of it, and they were talking, they, came face to face for the first time, they were crying and happy and stuff, and she went to take the Sharpie and go right, and as soon as it just fell because she disappeared, that part I was just like, oh, that really hit. So that's why I feel like because Your Name had uplifting parts and funny parts and that kind of slice of life feel added to it. When you hit those low notes, it's like your mood shifted, and that's why it was like, ooh, it was like a blow because you weren't already there. But I think that's the reason I cried more and I had more like heart-stopping moments in Your Name. But in A Silent Voice, I was already brought down. I was already just kind of at this thing. So when something sad happened, like any of the characters wanting to off themselves, I mean, that was something that it's just kind of like, oh, it's already bad, and then this happens. It's just it's watching a plane crash, and then you just continue to watch it and see the aftermath is what a lot of it felt. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's part of what made it brilliant, but it definitely was just down. It was hard to have a spike in your emotions because of the way it did. But I do agree.
When I watched it, I still had those spikes of just feeling even worse, than when I was already throughout the movie. So I think it hit just as hard for me as the moments in Your Name. Like, even though I agree with the way you talked, like how it goes up and down in Your Name, and A Silent Voice is just, literally right out the gate, he's thinking about killing himself.
Yeah.
So you already know what you're getting into. But
it's just how mellow he was about it, and that's why I say that the writing in it was so brilliant. He was just he just straight up told his mom, that's why he wasn't trying to hide it. And it was just like, how detached are you that you genuinely just told her like it was nothing, like it was just a thought you had. And
it was isolation was the point of that. It was to show that isolation can make you so detached from humanity that you don't realize
and A Silent Voice
okay and what's not.
But A Silent Voice definitely does a really good job of reflecting.
I'm sorry.
Reflecting like Japanese like bullying and stuff like that, because that's how it genuinely is. Like if you're an outcast or whatever, you just keep getting dunked on. And a lot of people do commit suicide.
You can't do that.
Getting dunked on. No, it's okay. I like it because she got dunked on hard. She bled from the ears. So he definitely hit the spin move on her.
Oh,
if you want something negative about both, one thing I can say is I feel though that Your Name isn't very layered. It's kind of one-dimensional. It has this one note that it wants to tell from beginning to end, with a big reveal at the end, about the different time periods and then the meteor. And I feel like A Silent Voice has too many layers at times. I feel like it's got too many messages it's trying to put in it, and they're all like at a 5, and no one message is like at a 10, and therefore it's kind of like, I don't know, it just seems like a bit much, and pacing I feel like might be an issue for Silent Voice. Like I stayed interested in it, but I feel like some scenes just went on like maybe if every scene was reduced by like 3 seconds, maybe the pacing would have felt a little better.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I guess I mentioned about the length, that it seemed like in Your Name a positive for it is everything that happened seemed like it was going towards the plot, but A Silent Voice did have a lot of not so much filler, but just conversations that were unnecessary, remarks that people made that had nothing to do with the plot. And I know that was just because it was such a big group of friends. I mean, you had like the main girl, the main guy, you had the best friend, the other dude friend, the female friend, the little sister. I mean, there were so many people that were hanging out in these areas. There was a lot to talk about. So you wanted the vibe that, you know, they were this real group of friends. So of course they're going to talk about things that are completely irrelevant to the plot and the progression of the characters. But, I mean, there were times where it suited the movie, but it definitely could have been cut and taken away from the overall.
I think this is why I think that A Silent Voice probably should have been a 12-episode anime, because the manga is like 60 chapters.
Oh, I wouldn't have finished it.
I would have finished it. Like, I love
because there were so
Silent
many
Voice.
so many things that you were talking about that they hinted at or talked about that get explained in the manga, and it's just because it had more time.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense. See, and the thing, too, as far as the writing goes, because I think the writing's brilliant in both of them. I think both of them, their writers took leaps. In Your Name, you had a writer who took a leap at this crazy, you know, like different times.
A lot of people are saying that the writer for Your Name is going to be the next Studio Ghibli and stuff. Like, there's a lot of people comparing him to that because of the writing.
Not true. Fact check. Press on.
But he,
I mean,
I know it.
But they took
All you can think about is that pipe.
But they took a big leap with it, I think, and that was one of the things I loved, that with the writing you had this, you know, time split story, essentially, that was involved with a romance. They also had the two characters. It was these, like, you know, the star-crossed lover story, but rather than them meeting through some, you know, twist of fate, they literally became each other to learn each other through themselves, and that was a huge way to kind of get to know the characters better than they ever could have. And I think that was an incredible way to write it. And then the thing with Your Name is it wraps up everything throughout the course of it, you know, even the stuff that seems crazy and hard to explain, you know, they get to it. But I think a thing with the brilliance of the writing of A Silent Voice is, it's writing it from the main bully's perspective as opposed to writing it from the girl's perspective, which is, seems like...
amazing.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I'm saying.
that's
That
just
seems
an
kind of
amazing way
like
to do
an interesting way to write it, but he went for it and it paid off. But the other thing is the open-endedness of A Silent Voice that I think adds to the brilliance. You have the very end where, you know, he's literally just standing there at the carnival and, like, all the X's fall down and he's crying.
Oh,
and
I
it flashes
enjoyed
to
that
the people.
so much.
Yeah,
the
it
ending
was great.
was amazing.
But they never elaborate into, like, what was his future like with her. You know, you just kind of have to make it up for yourself.
they also explain
But
this
then, in the manga, as far from the movie perspective, and then the other thing is, it makes you wonder why certain things are happening. So, for example, like when the girl, you know, went to go off herself after the firework thing, that was such a sad moment.
Majestic way to put it.
But it makes you wonder, kind of like what drove that, because everything seemed to be right in her world. And so, you know, one of my hypotheses is that I came up with,
you know exactly why she was like that. She felt like she was burdening the main character so much. So she wanted to off herself so he wouldn't have to worry about it anymore, or no one would have to worry about her anymore.
Yeah, she dealt with all those
because
emotions.
He was pretending, you know, he was putting on that fake smile, trying to get everybody back together so they could go do stuff just for her happiness. He literally drove off all of his all of his new friends because of her, sort of, and she felt like that was all her fault.
I thought it was also the fact that she got the news that
that too.
Her wasn't getting better either.
Yeah, that didn't help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She just had all these things going on and everything she was dealing with. Like, so.
Well, I guess I meant more so that night, in the sense that night was like this fireworks show where they're all together. Like, to me, it seemed like one of those things where it was this great night where, like, he was hanging out with her and her family. They were together.
Maxing, relaxing.
They were going to this fireworks show, Beauty in the Sky. So there were so many positive things, and it's like, of all the times for her to do it, why not just a day after school? Why did she leave in the middle of that? And it almost makes you wonder if she just essentially wanted to go out on a high note. Like, I want to do this because, I don't want to be a burden to anyone anymore. There's some bad stuff going on, but of all nights for it to do it, it's just little things like that.
I feel like that speaks to the writing, that you felt that way about the whole situation. Yeah. But at the beginning of the movie, it's easy to see, like, because he detached himself from society, you could see where they would see him trying to kill himself not to be, like, obvious. Like, he wasn't trying to hide it, so they didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really speaks to, you see it at the beginning, but when you get to the end and you're seeing her perspective, like, she's happy, things are looking up, but she wants to off herself. Yeah. Like, that, I feel like
so majestic.
Like, loops the loop on that one, bro.
I really enjoyed the writing as well as, like, how they writ him trying to find a way to, like, talk to her, like, not just going and doing it.
Talking about him just learning sign language?
No.
Oh, you're talking about...
Like, finding the excuse and a reason to go see her.
Oh.
Like, it's just not like, I'm just going to go do it. Like, he, like I enjoyed watching him try to find a reason to, like, go and talk to her.
Any sort of redemption story is great. And that one, like I said, did it so well, and it was such a unique design. Which, Lauren, you watched it for the first time today, right?
Yeah.
So what's your perspective, I guess, after freshly watching it?
I don't know, man. It was I don't know. It just seemed like a really long Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide episode where they're dealing with anxiety.
Jesus, no.
Oh. Cody, when did you watch it recently or
last night?
Last night, okay, yeah. So you're another recent one.
Yeah. I would say, if I summed it up, I like the silent voice. I enjoyed it more because I'm a big fan of somber movies and more like melancholy tones. But I think probably Your Name is a better movie. It's more like streamlined, I think. And I think a lot of people would be turned off by the pacing of a silent voice, Also, did anyone else die laughing when she talked for the first time?
Yes, I did 100% actually.
Who could have guessed, Lauren?
Me, I was watching with my little brother. We just look at each other and go.
You're also dying by the best friend.
Oh yeah, the best friend.
When he dips the
French fries and ketchup. The choir part.
Oh, it was too funny.
It like as soon as it happened, I wasn't expecting it. It happened. I laughed and then I felt heartbroken.
I know you want to let her do her thing, but don't you think maybe they could have let her skip choir class?
Just another way the movie depresses you.
It's just like, I didn't catch this till the third time I watched it. And I was just like, so y'all got the deaf person
right up front
going off sound cues.
Yeah.
She won't hear them laughing at her. I guess that's the positive.
Man,
maybe that's how
they
saw
terrifying too. Like, why is everybody making this face? You can't hear them laughing at you. Just
yeah.
See, I think when it comes to as far as comparing the movies for, like you said, as far as you enjoyed A Silent Voice more, you think Your Name's a better movie. I think if I was doing it on my personal perspective for it, I do like Your Name more. I like them both incredibly. It's very hard to pick between the two, but I think my reason for Your Name personally is some of it is a rewatch value in the sense that A Silent Voice is one of those movies that hits me in the same way that any super depressing, melodramatic, any modern day or not even
Pulp
modern
Fiction.
day. Pulp Fiction I can watch the shit out of. It's more.
I can rewatch Silent Voice a lot. This is my third, fourth time watching.
Oh shit! See that's the thing. It's one of those.
Times.
Jesus Christ! Yes,
and I cry every time.
See,
I couldn't watch it.
I don't.
Times.
Yeah, it's one of the. I could watch it if I was say introducing it to someone, but as far as for my own entertainment or something like that, it just doesn't seem like a movie I would just pick up. It's one of those that it's great to introduce people to. It's great to have seen and have it in your memory banks. Your Name, I could definitely watch again just for the pure story of it and just to get the fulfillment that I get from it. But Your Name, definitely, I enjoyed the multiple elements, the different genre points that were put in there. I enjoyed the mystery and the fantasy of it all. I really like, the areas where it hit me. It hit hard. There were some really good laughs. The artwork was, in both animes, it was good, but in Your Name, that artwork was just beautiful. I mean, it was stunning throughout all of it.
I think the artwork in Silent Voice was amazing too.
Yeah, they were both good, but I just
Your Name,
crushed it.
Oh no, Your Name did it a
I think
lot better.
overall, I think there were scenes in Your Name that I think the animation was a lot better, but just overall, throughout the whole story, I think A Silent Voice was on par with it.
You're just lying.
I say, look, Your Name, the art was impeccable, but the music in A Silent Voice, that it blows.
The fact that they started off with My Generation is amazing.
It was amazing music. The best choices ever.
It's like the orchestra or whatever they had playing at the end of the movie during the school festival when all the X's were falling off. Just how it kept picking up in tone.
No, it was amazing.
Oh yeah, Silent Voice had the better score. Yeah, definitely.
I love too, like I said, some of the different aspects that were in Your Name that were so off the wall. Like there was the time where they met each other, in person outside of their little thing on the rim of the meteor where the Sharpie dropped. There was the time where they met on the bus, and remember, he had no idea who she was. She knew who he was, and she was super excited to talk to him, and he was just lost. And then that's when she gave him the ribbon out of her hair, and that was a very touching moment.
That was when he was much younger and he hadn't met her yet.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the end. Where they
No. Remember when
I thought you were talking about the end. You were like, she knew who he was, but I was like, at the end they didn't know that.
And then there were those things about like how they had their memories that were just somewhat fading in the sense that he's like, oh, who is it? Where is she? And he's trying to pick up these different pieces, or I'm sorry, he's trying to pick up the different pieces to figure out where she was. And so he goes with that one girl from the restaurant that he was attracted to. They had that little thing or tried, but a lot of that was because of the girl. Whenever she body swapped, she was able to charm her and everything, and I thought that was a neat thing. And then she helps become part of that team that's helping him try to discover what he feels like he lost. As soon as that Sharpie drops, he's just like, what's her name? And it's just trying to remember that and just how that all went. And then the ending too.
Yeah, I've also dropped a Sharpie in my life.
Well, the fact that he asked her to write her name down, I'm pretty sure, and then when he looked, it was just "I love you" or whatever.
Yes. That part, and it's just things like that's one I guess questionable part. It's like, why don't you just fucking write your name? Could have possibly saved something, but that was such a sweet moment. And then of course, the end when they're older, they're in their adulthood and they're just taking a casual walk to the bus and resting their face on the window pane, and they just kind of catch eyes of each other, and they still aren't 100% sure, and they're not fully in recall of the events that happen and everything that goes on. It's just something familiar about them. And when they cross and they're just running out to find... I remember the suspense I felt when they were running to find each other. I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen?
No, you're waiting for them to see each other again.
And when they caught each other at the stairs and they walked past each other, I didn't know what to think. I legit had no idea what to feel. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Where's this movie going to?
At any point, did you think that they weren't going to end up together?
I was worried that was going to be the end, that they were going to walk by each other, kind of hit a faint smile, and it would cut. It's like, oh, but when he hit that turnaround, that was the satisfaction, because you can leave things on an open note and leave it to the perspective of the viewer, and I think that's a good way of writing. But I was very satisfied.
Me personally, I always want to know
the closure.
I just want to know it.
This was
just tell me, man.
Aaron doesn't like mysteries.
In certain writing, I'm fine with it. I was fine with it in A Silent Voice, but in Your Name, I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. When they passed each other, as soon as he hit the turnaround, and it's just like, ma'am, do I know you from somewhere? Or you look familiar, and then she turns around just bawling, I thought so too. I'm like, when they hit the name of the movie. Can I ask you what's your name? Like,
I'll say for Silent Voice, you comparing that scene to yourself, one of the scenes I just truly thought was amazing in A Silent Voice was the scene when he was in a coma, and they were talking in the dream, and he was basically
Yup.
basically telling her goodbye in this dream talk, and I'm just like, this is amazing. You know how it's like the words in the paper and stuff, and he shrinks back to the kid, and like she wakes up and runs to that spot, and he wakes up and is like, I gotta get back to this spot. And it's just like they meet, and it's just like I love that scene a lot. I think it was amazing for the movie.
You know,
that scene does not happen in the manga.
Well, see, this is my other thing. Aaron described that so specifically, and I know how this brain works. When was the last time you watched it?
What?
When was the last time
A couple
you watched
days ago.
Okay.
I
figure it was recent.
Like,
So one thing I'll say is you keep talking about the manga. I've never really agreed. Like, I don't think that if someone, you know, Brandon's bringing up points against it, and you're bringing up, well, that happens in the manga, or that's fleshed out in the manga, that's still a point against the movie, because you're comparing it as the movie. You can't, you know...
Oh, no, that's fair. I was just
cherry pick
informing you
things.
about the...
I know that was. It's going back to in the beginning of the podcast when you were using it as a defense against things you could be negative about them.
Oh, I wasn't.
can't.
I wasn't trying to use it as a defense. I was just informing him.
Well, I was gonna say I don't mind that you were informative, because I'm hoping that maybe because these were some things I may have taken issue with, and some of them get resolved in the manga, and you're letting that be known, because I wouldn't have known that. Maybe, you know, some of our viewers, it will entice them more to go actually read the manga for each of them, and maybe pick up some of those pieces. Maybe they, you know, agreed with me and felt like they were missing in there. So no, I think it's a good thing. I definitely.
I mean, personally, I didn't feel like Silent Voice. I was like left missing anything. I
Oh,
enjoyed
you were
it.
definitely missing some things.
I mean, I wasn't
not,
like.
like,
I mean,
I
I thought
love
it
the
was
movie.
fine.
But I was missing some things.
And I
Well,
forget, you've talked more about the Silent Voice manga, but did you read the Your Name one as well?
I didn't know your name had a manga.
Oh, I don't know if it does. I
I don't think so.
I think it's just a movie. Cause
No,
that
it's confirmed that it doesn't.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay.
that author, he only makes movies. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I mean, like I said, it was
'Cause
just
he made a
phenomenal.
garden
I think
of words.
that's
and-
why it felt
Oh,
more
I've been talking
complete.
about that.
And so, yeah, that definitely is probably why it felt more streamlined, and you weren't missing anything and stuff like that.
He
So,
also made the new movie Weathering with You.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's what
haven't
I'm saying.
seen that.
Haven't seen
A
that
lot
one
of people
yet.
are talking like he's going to be the next Studio Ghibli. by
They
his
talked
movies.
about that when he made Your Name.
not the
No
next
one's saying it now.
Miyazaki. He is
Well,
going to be a studio. He's going to transform
But yeah, he meant yeah.
into a building.
But yeah, people aren't saying that as much now with Weathering with You, because I've heard that it's just kind of a hodgepodge of all his other movies, just kind of thrown
Really?
together.
What
Yeah.
studio, like, cause does he work for the particular studio that produced Your Name? Is that his studio? Because like when you say that, like I'm shitting
I
on
don't-
you,
I don't
but
know if that's
I
his
do mean it.
studio,
Well,
but-
but that's what I mean. Like how Aaron said, they're saying he's going to be the next studio. Like, is it the studio he writes for that
Whose
produces
phone's
the
on?
movies
Whose phone's
that
on?
you're
I've
comparing
heard
it
that.
to? That's going to be the next. Like they're going to produce movies just like Studio Ghibli. Or are you saying he is a writer?
I'm not saying like I meant he's going to be the next writer. He's
Like
not going to be.
Miyazaki?
Yeah, he's going to be the next Miyazaki.
Are you saying he's
that's,
going to work for Studio Ghibli?
that's my problem. He's
There
going to
is
be the
no
next
Studio
Miyazaki. Like that's what I
Studio
meant.
Ghibli's not a thing anymore. I'm pretty sure.
I know
I
there's
thought Miyazaki were talking.
there's a bunch of stuff with
No,
Studio Ghibli
Studio
funding.
Ghibli's done too.
Oh, I did
Because
not know that.
there's like another studio that everybody's saying is going to be the next Ghibli, because a lot of the Ghibli writers went to that place. It's the one who made Mary and the Witch's Flower.
Yeah.
That studio
Never seen it.
is the one people are saying is going to.
It's a fake movie.
I did not
on
know
Netflix.
that. I did not know that
Netflix
Studio
makes
Ghibli
fake
was
movies.
gone.
You
Yeah,
ever seen that
'cause-
Ragnarok movie? It's pretty fake.
Because that's one of the I do know for a fact that there was that big thing about their financial issues that they were having in Studio Ghibli, and that was around the time that Your Name in a Silent Voice came out, and I think that that's one of the biggest breaths of fresh air about both of those movies is that right when it was kind of public knowledge that Studio Ghibli was having monetary issues and the future of them was kind of unknown, it was the fact that you had these two amazing animated movies that came out that weren't produced by Ghibli, and they were just phenomenal, and they were such a widespread success that it gave you faith that, look, we don't need Ghibli
I mean,
to
Your
get
Name-
amazing animated
Your
movies.
Name made more money than Spirit Away. It broke the record that was held by Spirit Away.
Is that after inflation?
No,
No.
Okay.
there's no way.
Also, Demon Slayer movie beat all of them.
We're not talking about that.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
when you
you're
don't factor
bringing up-
when you don't factor for inflation, it's,
It makes more sense because of
Yeah.
modern day. But that's my point, is that those movies gave a breath of fresh air that we can rest easy knowing that like the fate of anime movies is not, reliant on the existence of Studio Ghibli. That there are plenty of other writers.
Well, I
and
mean, you already
studios
kind of
out
had
there.
Has
that.
that ever
with,
been a thought to anyone?
Yeah,
else?
because like you already
Oh.
had that. Like that guy's made other movies. He's made Garden of Words, 5 centimeters per second.
5 minute centimeters per second.
Yes.
is that really the name of the movie?
No, it's 5 centimeters per second.
Okay.
5 minutes
I had
to
to make sure.
midnight.
But and he's made a couple other movies, and Weathering with You now. Like he's going to continue to make movies. I mean, they're going to be of at least decent quality.
It's off bat, but fuck, I wish the audience could have seen your hair when you first walked in this house. I just remembered it. It looked like slicked over dog shit. But I was just thinking about it because it's dry
That'll
now.
get the views.
It's not about views. It's about sending a message.
No, it's about money and views. I'll
Okay.
say it.
Well, what's the message? So who here thinks Silent Voice is a better movie?
Not me.
I
still
do.
do.
I mean, I truly do. I can watch it again and again and still feel the same emotions. I've watched it 5 times. I feel the same emotions. I love the layers. I love all the messages in the movie. Like, personally, like, if you deal with these problems, I think it's a good movie to watch. Like, I think it helps you, like, see, like, you can resolve these problems. And I just enjoyed that a lot.
Well, what were you asking, though? Because I know you said who thinks Silent Voice is a better... Because you said you think Your Name is a better movie, but you enjoyed Silent Voice. Were you asking what people enjoy more?
yes,
or what
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was it. Which do you enjoy more?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I'm not even gonna say definitely. It is Your Name, but again, they're very, very good movies. So it is very tough to compare the two.
Yeah, no one's saying either of these movies are bad except for maybe Lauren.
Well, yeah, that's why I misspoke. I meant
Skylar?
to say enjoy.
Be that way sometimes.
My choice would definitely be A Silent Voice. I really enjoyed watching it, and the suicide thing I can relate to, and so it
But that's what
I
I'm
show
saying.
it favoritism, I
Yeah.
guess, but that's why it hit harder for me. So
Well, like Aaron said, there's a lot of different, and like I said, there's tons of messages in the movie. So I do think it would be, like Aaron said, hard to find someone who couldn't relate to at least a part of the movie.
yeah.
Yeah, anyone who's gone through anything of tragedy definitely can find stuff.
I mean, I know my younger sister gets mistaken for my boyfriend all the time.
That's fair. That's a good one.
That's funny. Good prank.
And I know that Aaron gets mistaken as a guy who gets his bike jacked and then has to get bailed out by a friend.
What?
The best friend.
The best friend who got his
bike
Oh,
jacked by that one
I was
dude.
just thinking about Aaron having that whole situation. I was like, when did that happen?
At McDonald's, probably.
Oh, spicy.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't that literally happen? Did his bike get jacked?
It did.
And
It
then-
got stolen
and
from
then-
McDonald's.
And then you found it again, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like him.
Yeah.
You did? What, did you
Turns
like make
out it
best friends with the
It
guy who
was
had
on
it?
the inside of the garbage can.
It in fact was not, because I walked in the trash can. It was my way home.
He didn't peek in. This man waltzed into it.
That was my ride home. I was trying to find it.
Where was it?
It was
It
on
wasn't
the
there.
inside of
No,
the
but where
garbage
did you
can.
end up finding it at?
It was
the inside of the garbage
Like the
can.
concrete little thing that wraps it. It was in there.
What is this podcast turned into?
anyways.
And what
So
has
you're-
Aaron's life turned into?
I hate life.
He is the best friend character in the song.
What's his
See-
nickname for him? What's the best friend's nickname for the main character?
Gay.
Oh.
Yasho or?
Yeah, Yasho.
Super cool
Yasho!
guy. So this is my thing. I'll admit that I haven't watched either of the two in probably the last
I forgot all
8
about
months
that
or something.
Yeah.
And so it's been a while since I've seen y'all have, all seemed to seen it pretty recently. So one thing I've heard having conversation with people about A Silent Voice is how they talk about that they think one of the issues with the boy main character is at the beginning they're just like, yeah, you notice that he's got all these X's on the faces, he doesn't look people in the eyes anymore because it shows that he just doesn't know how to socialize because he went from being this big bully and that was his only way that he knew how to socialize. Oof. And then that went back to bite him, and people started turning on him. And then because people started turning on him, he isolated himself. And because of all those factors, where the only experience he had socializing was being a bully, he didn't know how to properly do it. And that was theory and stuff that people talked about. But my thing was, at the beginning of the movie, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I know that he saved up that money, and that was like his money that he was going to commit suicide with, give to his mom. But he made that from working, but didn't they mention something about him being like a good employee, and what job did he do? Because it makes me wonder where his social skills had to come into play at
Oh, he
his
just
job.
worked at a service station, so he just, didn't look at people, and he just, he was.
Also, he sold
he was
a bunch of-
diligent.
he sold
like,
all the
that's his
stuff.
thing. It wasn't that he was good socially. It's just He did his job, went home when he needed to, and he worked the
Clocked in,
hours he
clocked
needed
out.
to.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like he
That's where
worked
it hit for
well.
me.
He did a good job, and because
Soon as
that's
he
what I
lifted a
thought.
cow.
I thought it was something in service, but I don't know. I guess that was just a small little thing. Like it was interesting that he had a job in service, considering his state and the way he interacted with people. Like it does make
It's
you
kind
wonder.
of well, like in Japan, whenever you work those kind of jobs, like you already turn off your personality anyway. You have to be nice to the customer and like smile. So he's already kind of turned himself off and is just going through the motions throughout the day.
Actually, well, no, he worked in Japan for 2 years.
I mean, think about how many people in this country that we live in have to turn their personality off. I mean, tons of people hate socializing, but they still have to work in society.
Well, that's true. I guess I meant more just because it seemed like he was a good employee is kind of the impression I got. And most people that do something like that as a good employee is going to be the Disney World worker who's like, "Hey there, friend, how are you doing? Have a nice day." And I'm not
Disney
saying
World
he was
is not
that.
a good example. They have to do that.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying
They take their mask off, they get fired on the spot.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Oh, okay. Disneyland.
But that's what I'm saying. That I'm not saying that he necessarily had major social interaction, but it makes you wonder if people had to have had certain ask him questions about, oh, is there any discounts on this or it's a very niche point. It's a very minor thing,
Sorry,
but
is
it does.
discount on this.
But it does make me
porn?
wonder because he was
That
so
fried chicken.
because he was so
Discount on that fried chicken.
anyway, he was so detached
chicken's
at the
big thing at the gas
beginning
station.
that he was so detached at the
He didn't work
beginning
at
that
the
it makes you
station.
wonder what was the
He didn't work at
extent
the gas station, did he?
of his what?
A service station. They don't have gas
Same
stations over
thing.
there.
It's a gas station without gas.
It's like the things you
Like I
see.
said,
Bungalow.
There you go.
It's the word for it.
Okay.
I think.
So, a question I wanted to ask real quick, and then Brandon, big for you because of how big you are in your name. We,
Lauren's added so much to this podcast.
which do you
None
think
of it good.
was better about the first moment when the character realized that they was in love with this with the chick? Like,
See-
the opening, oh, this is somebody I care for.
Well, that's the thing. I think the falling in love, again, for me, and it may be a personal bias, but I like Your Name. I like the leap that they took with the transitioning of bodies. Like, a body change movie is such a unique perspective already. But for them to having never met in person, coming close in person, but being, close to each other and gaining that closeness through literally living each other's lives, taking a peek into their world and seeing the people that they see, living working the jobs they do, being around the core group of friends, having these conversations and kind of, learning about that person through actually being them and then falling in love that way, I think is such a unique and special thing. And I think that that's such a, because in
They
a
also
silent
see each other
voice,
naked.
I mean,
Yikes, what is that?
but in a silent voice, I think that's the thing is with them too. It's like he was so detached and he really didn't have anything, and making amends with her really was the stepping stone to him correcting his life
Well,
and
I mean,
getting
you
on
see
the
when
back
he's
track.
a kid, he's still, you can see that, after he does the flip script and she doesn't show up for school and stuff, you can also see the how he wants to make amends and he cares for her and he she's gone now.
And some of it too had to go with.
I definitely do.
Well,
I don't
see-
know how you disagree with me. Actually,
Well, the reason I think some of that is because remember he got he got out because he got outcasted for what he did. Remember he got outcasted.
He had to go through that experience of being bullied to understand where she came from. That's when he felt bad about what happened to her.
Yeah, he felt bad about it when
That's
it went
fair.
to
He was just upset at first because he's like, "No, I'm not the only one who did this. These other people did." He didn't
They
really-
just straight
he didn't
ratted
really care
him.
about her at that point. He was just like, "Why am I getting blamed?" Like, the dark-headed girl, she did just as much as I did. Like, if
Yeah,
not
so-
worse. Or well,
And I guess that's why I say
That's
that
fair.
with a silent voice, it was a great love story. But again, I don't think the romance was the important part of it because the romance, it's kind of one of those things where I guess you expect it in the sense that when they make amends and they become really close and he's learning sign language and stuff and it's just, they're so good for each other. They're healthy for each other's lives and stuff, even though she internalized it incorrectly and that's why she got depressed and, had the little suicide spell that she had. It's one of those things where they were both, at the end of the day, good for each other, and that's kind of where the climax, showed you. But in Your Name, it wasn't necessarily that, in fact, they were butting heads and stuff at first, but it's just gaining the perspective inside someone's world. Your Name felt like more of a romance story. A Silent Voice felt like a sad story
With a little
that
bit of
was
romance
just,
sprinkled
with a
in.
little bit of romance. But Your
I
Name
get
was
that. I
a
get that a lot.
fantasy, romance movie, and so that's why I think the love in Your Name was just so much more magical to me in the sense that it was literally, I mean, like they switch bodies. It's like magic. But in A Silent Voice, the love was just pure and so innocent, and it had all these different layers. So it was great romance in both of them. And like I said, great story in both of them. But I do think some hit different notes. The romance note I like better in Your Name. And I'm all for romance. I think that may be a personal bias towards it and stuff. But definitely they both have, relatable things and things that you can kind of recognize about the characters that you enjoy and a kind of a supporting cast that you like. I think that's another thing we can talk about, is that the friend group in A Silent Voice all had different personalities and different unique people that kind of brought something different to the table. And it was kind of similar in Your Name. In Your Name, you had that whole plan at the end. That was such a neat thing where they had to rally the town together to be able to do this. And she was like, look, let's get our friends together. We got to do it. We're going to take over the news or the electric system or whatever. And we're going to shoot these commands to everyone to get them out of the town. No, at first, that was the one weird thing, I guess, about Your Name. No one gave two shits. No one just listened. This girl was repeating that message, and they're just kind of like, it wasn't until her dad was like, I need to stop being a shit dad. And he actually announced himself. They're like, the big guy's saying it. I guess we'll evacuate now.
Man. I mean, who's going to listen to a bunch of kids saying the world's going to,
Well, that's true. But I mean, just
I was
being...
about to say, come on, teenagers indoor. The world. No one's going to listen to it.
No. Are you going to listen to a teenager around the world?
I mean, I will say, if it is blaring on every intercom that's nearby nonstop, like she won't shut up and that's all I hear in the back, I don't know that I'm just going to ignore it.
That's fair.
I don't know that I'm just going to waltz on by after the 5th or 6th time and be like, they have not shut this shit. Because the thing is, they had such a good plan to be able to take control. It took a while before they shut it down. So it seemed official. And I think yes, it was a kid, but it's like, this was an official announcement coming through all the intercoms. Everyone heard it. And people were just like, fuck that. It's like, to think that, like, it was such a good plan that they thought of that for every single person to internalize it, that this is just a group of them teenagers pulling a prank after the 800th time she's repeated it and be like, we're not going to take any stock into this. So that was just a thing. But it's just the care, like that all led back from the conversation I was saying where the supporting cast was neat. And then like his friend group and kind of when they switched bodies and they were talking about him and the way he was in school and at his job and stuff. There were a lot of different.
So one thing I thought was neat with Your Name is actually that the girl's grandmother had been through the same thing before.
Yes.
Oh no, I really enjoyed that they layered that into it.
Like they at least addressed it, like it might be like a family thing or something. Like it might be part of their.
And because when she knew
because they're all
that
like the shrine maidens or whatever, so that might have been like something they went through. I don't know.
And remember how she was saying that like she knew she wasn't herself with the body swap. It's like, I'm calling you out, and that was a cool part. Yeah.
Is spit sake a real thing?
Yeah.
Gross.
It's called kame sake because it's for the gods.
Kame sake. Yeah. We're gonna make some here on the podcast, and Aaron's gonna drink it.
Sure.
He heard it here first, folks.
But one of the things I really liked about A Silent Voice was the whole mom thing. I really enjoyed how they did the whole parents the whole parent stuff with the whole bullying and all that aspect. I really enjoyed that a lot.
You enjoy someone getting bullied? That's wrecked.
So the mom ripped the earring out of her ear, right?
Yeah. Pretty sure it's how.
We didn't see that happen. Right?
No.
Okay, because I felt like I missed a scene.
Yeah, that was.
You didn't see it happen.
That was really fake. No, you didn't see it happen. But I mean, it's heavily implied. But yeah, that was so harsh
didn't
too.
Do anything.
Like,
tried to give her the money back.
Well, this was I just enjoyed that little aspect as well. I think it was really well for the movie.
Yeah. Like one random thing is like, does the manga explain why you never see the sister's face?
Oh no, she's in it.
So why in the movie?
See her in it.
So why in the movie?
She's not very important, I guess.
She's just out there getting hyped so much.
Yeah.
No denial.
She had in the manga. She had a boyfriend before the Brazilian. He was like a yakuza dude or whatever.
Oh god.
So many mixed babies.
Because he was trying to teach the main character like how to be tough or something like that.
Huh.
Interesting.
Crazy train.
I don't think I cared that I missed that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not a big deal. But
Axel's so happy. So I guess that is another question. Are you happy you read the manga? Not so much in the sense that, well, I'm glad I have the full story, but did you enjoy the manga more than you did the movie?
Oh no, the movie's much better than like reading the manga, but that's because I already saw the movie.
He doesn't like to read.
That's fair. But reading the manga, it was basically just to get the information I didn't know.
Okay. But that's what I mean. When you got that were you satisfied, or were you kind of like, I could have lived without that? Like for the viewers, do you recommend?
For the most part, you could live without it. There's just a couple spots.
Does it make the movie retroactively better to you?
No.
You don't appreciate it anymore?
No, the movie stays the same either way.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The manga is not worth it. My prior...
It's 60 chapters. If you want to, you can just read the last couple and you'll get what you need to know.
That's tragic. Why would you even commit to that then?
To read a couple chapters just to get your...
Yeah, but if you're skipping 57 chapters...
Because it's all the same. Almost all that's almost the same.
When was the last time you watched your name, Warren?
I've been watched it once.
Oh,
This isn't my cup of tea, so I'm not the best for this.
What, your name?
Anime movies, I'm guessing?
No,
sentimental.
He doesn't want to cry. He's a man's man.
That was a man's fart earlier.
Man's man.
We smelt it here first.
Skylar, you've been having a silent voice for a minute.
Spam.
Got anything else you want to say?
Both movies are really worth the watch. A Silent Voice will probably hit you harder than Your Name, but if you want the more cinematic feel, I definitely suggest watching Your Name first. But I mean, overall, both movies are worth a watch. Make sure you got some tissues.
Oh, I mean, if you don't cry
fair.
during a Silent Voice, you're a sociopath.
If you don't cry, if you don't cry during either one of them, you're not fucking human, man.
Legit.
Some kind of farting robot. Yeah, you definitely don't feel well watching A Silent Voice in particular.
No, that like I said, it is 2 hours.
And I just don't know that the payoff's happy enough to make you feel great at the end.
No, because the end is okay, got a couple friends, but he went through years of misery.
Yeah,
so
complete
much
isolation.
It definitely.
He did terrorize a deaf girl, so
Everyone did it.
he kind of. They all deserved some shit.
Yeah. Prison.
This is, I guess, one other last thing to talk about in regards to your silent voices. I've never, again, I haven't seen, you guys have watched these movies more recently, and you probably know more because you read the manga, but I have heard some people literally be so defensive about the bully girl and how, it's not necessary, she's not necessarily all shit.
It doesn't matter, manga, anime. She's a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's a piece of shit.
She's
but people are like, no, because
she never gets redeemed.
Well, see, they try to claim that it's because, you got to think she's damaged because she blames the deaf girl for the falling out and
of her
everything.
Friend group.
Yeah, of her friend group, and that caused a huge dismay for her, and that was a huge negative
she was
impact
in love
on
with
her
the main
life.
character,
Yeah,
and that distanced her from him.
yeah,
and
exactly.
She was mad the whole time because she, in the manga, anime, it's also in the anime, but she stayed in that room with him while he was unconscious for 2 weeks and wouldn't let anybody in because she wanted that time with him. She wanted, when he woke up, to accept her, I guess, and
But that's what I'm saying. She was definitely a piece of shit. But that's my point, is that there are people, and I guess addressing that, having the manga and stuff, and then just everyone's collective opinion. Where does anyone see that person? Does anyone see her as a character who, she felt, because my thing is, I see why she holds a grudge, because she does feel that way, but she should recognize that the only reason her friend group got split up and everything is through very negative and awful actions.
I just thought about it. She does get redeemed in the manga a little at the very, very, very end. Her and the deaf girl make up a decent amount. They actually work together to get everybody back together and to start working on the movie that they were working on. I don't even know if they talked about them actually making a movie in the anime. That's that's a whole plot in the manga.
Yeah, when you brought up a movie, I was like, I must have missed a couple scenes.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
They were making Your Name.
Because the best friend that he talked about wanted to be a director. They actually make a movie in the manga.
Huh.
Is that why he has the T-shirt that says
I
Hollywood?
thought that last little thing that happened.
No, it's because he's a porn star.
That was a
that
party
mustache.
and them getting back into doing the movie because they actually get third place in a movie award thing and all that.
Oh, God. Edward Quizier.
Well, hopefully you've enjoyed another installment of the A2B1 Anime Fight of the Week, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Glizzy.
Fuck!